Welcome to 615 Unplugged, where we explore the people, businesses, and stories that make Middle Tennessee what it is today and what it will be tomorrow. Today's episode is truly special for me because I am joined by Rebecca Mariani, a realtor in Middle Tennessee who was truly a godsend for me and my family during our move from Florida to Middle Tennessee. On today's episode, we discuss her background, the importance of community, and the lessons learned from her experiences in real estate. And last but not least, Rebecca opens up and reflects on personal growth, the importance of grace, and her passion for helping others through her own experiences. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Rebecca Mariani. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Hey, Corrado. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
It is my pleasure. Honestly, I knew when I was going to start the show that you were going to be one of those first people that I needed to have on. Because honestly, if it wasn't for you, our move would not have been as smooth as it was. So honestly,
Thank you.
I know I've told you this in person many, many, many times. I can't thank you enough. Like the way that you helped us was incredible. Incredible.
Thank you. Very
So
kind of you. It was a true privilege, honestly. Loved working with you guys.
yeah. So before we get started, obviously, if there's somebody that's listening that doesn't know who you are, go ahead and take a second to introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get going.
Sure. My name is Rebecca Mariani, and I'm a local realtor here in Middle Tennessee. I have 5 children now. We're actually recently remarried. So my husband had 3, I had 2. So now we've got a blended family. So we have 2 11-year-olds, almost 9-year-old, 8-year-old, and then a 4-year-old. So we spend our days
So
doing
you have
family.
a lot of time on yourself
I
by
know,
yourself,
right?
right? Like you have a lot, a lot of time in your
Yeah,
hands.
when we're not doing laundry or fixing food, yeah, our time is filled honestly with work, with our church, with our community, and doing family things, and we just really enjoy being together.
And remind me again, how long have you been doing real estate?
Gosh, about 20 years actually in the industry.
Wow. How did you get into that? How did you fall into that? Because I know that you've done some
Yeah.
other things, like Dave Ramsey and everything. Maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually where my real estate career started was with Ramsey. So, actually when I was, after I graduated high school, I went and did an internship for a year, at a, church organization down in Texas. And after that year, I came back home and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, was planning to go to college, kind of your typical route. And in the meantime, my dad actually was like, hey, well, if you're looking for a job, I think Ramsey's organization is hiring. And he had some connections there in the past. And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe I can get a job in the meantime, then go to college in the spring. So I ended up applying there and got a temporary assistant position for what was then called the Endorsed Local Provider Real Estate Program. And so what they did actually was endorse top agents all over the country and sent them people that needed to buy or sell. So people would listen to Dave's show. They would need to buy or sell a home. And because talk radio is a very intimate form of communication, they would really trust Dave and his advice. And so they would get connected with an agent Dave recommended. And we ran that program. So I started there as an assistant and did that for I ended up falling in love with the job, first of all. And that temp position turned into a full-time position and fell in love with it. And about 5 years after that, I ended up moving into a sales position on the same team. And then about 3 years after that, there was a whole reorg in the company, and I ended up being able to move into the vice president role and ran the entire team. Had about 25 people reporting to me. So learned so much about business while I was there, had the best leadership ever, but really became passionate about real estate. Working with the top agents across the country just made me love it. And just seeing how people's lives could be changed just because, a home is typically somebody's largest financial transaction. And so it's a
Yeah.
big deal to be a part of that. And so once I ended up leaving Ramsey's after I had my second son, just because I wanted to kind of have a little more freedom, do real estate myself personally and be home. Ended up working here in Middle Tennessee and kind of starting my own thing here in Middle Tennessee, and have been doing that now since probably 2023-ish, 2022, somewhere in there. So it's been really such a great journey to do it on my own after watching so many top people do it, learning from the best of the best, and then just applying those principles to my own business. it's just made it really easy to kind of step into it. And the things that are hard for most people come easy to me. And the things that were easy is I was nervous about little things like, oh, how do I open a lockbox? Silly things like that. But when it came to talking to people, that was easy. That came second nature. So I've
How,
absolutely loved it.
what are some of those things that you right now you can look back and say, wow, thank God for this, I learned this principle or this thing through those times at Dave Ramsey and managing all of these people and dealing with so many realtors all over the place. What are some of those
Hmm.
things that you think, gosh, thank God I went through that,
Oh,
because
yeah.
if not, I probably wouldn't be doing these sets of things in my business that have proven to be, great.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I first thing is like understanding follow up. We used to teach our agents when they would follow up with the leads, we'd send them like, "Hey, you have to assume they're interested until you hear otherwise." A lot of times people are just busy, and typically an agent would follow up with someone two or three times and be like, "Oh well, I guess they're not interested," when really that almost never was the case. It's more like, "Oh, they're busy going to kids' soccer games," or like every time you call, they happen to, be in the car with the kids, or it's just all these things where it's like assume they're interested until you hear otherwise. So that's given me a lot of confidence in my follow up game as far as following up with people and just remembering what I've taught and telling myself, oh, they haven't answered in a while, but it's okay. Keep following up. So that's helped me tremendously as far as building my business. Um,
And can I interrupt quickly?
yeah.
Because that is one thing that I wanted to make sure and highlight from you. Throughout our entire time, from the moment our pastor introduced us, like that, I was like, "Hey, I'm considering moving. Do you know anyone?" He introduced me to you. My wife and I always just used to like be in awe of your follow-up game. Like
Oh, wow.
it was incredible. Like my wife has a background that she used to be like I think it was like a CFO or something like that, like
Wow.
at a real estate branch and everything. And so she knows a lot about like the inner workings of like how team leaders and this and all of that
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
To me, I don't understand half of that stuff. So like sometimes when it's like real estate stuff, I'm like, "Hey babe, how does this work?" Or how did it? She's like, "Oh, this is how the team works, and this is."
Yes.
And we were always in awe about your follow-up game, because from the moment the pastor connected us, it was every single holiday, every once in a while, we always got something in the mail, and it even went as far. And this is where but much of that you can kind of easily go, well, that's automated. It's kind of like on a timely basis, all of that stuff. But where it really took a different meaning of your level of detail and follow up and care was, we went through a family death and all of that stuff. And I think in one of our interactions, I kind of like mentioned it and all that stuff. And lo and behold, that same week, there was a handwritten note from Rebecca in our mailbox in Miami, like, wishing us to, all of this stuff. And we were like, wow, this girl just
Oh,
doesn't skip a beat. Like, it's amazing. So, for any
oh,
realtors out there listening, honestly, that follow up is critical. It's critical.
that's
So,
amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
yeah.
It's been like I've learned, I got connected to an incredible organization actually through Ramsey's, called the Brian Buffini organization. But they have a coaching program. And so I'm part of that. But yeah, a big part of that is just personal notes. And it's kind of a lost art these days. And I absolutely love it. It's something that I actually feel is a strength of mine. I'm a natural encourager and detail oriented. And so, yeah, it's an honor to let people know how appreciated they are and just to let the little things stand out and just let them know it's been recognized. I feel like too often we focus on the negative and people don't get to hear the positive very much. So, yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of my job is it's like, hey, just encouraging people and just building a relationship with people and not even, I mean, maybe it'll turn into business, but even if it doesn't, just having the relationship is just huge. And honestly, community is everything.
And that's a principle that I think not only applies to real estate, right? Like any
Hmm.
kind of business. Like you can take that level of care and you can take that level of, again, like you said, the premium that a handwritten note carries these
Yes.
days is
Yes.
unbelievable, right? Because
Yeah.
in the noise of all the junk mail that we get,
Yeah.
all of a sudden there's like a handwritten note. You're like, wait, who took the time to actually write?
Yep,
So,
that's true.
anything else that you looking back, you go, wow, thank God for this lesson because it has really shaped kind of
Yeah,
like my
gosh,
business
I had
nowadays?
the same boss the entire time I was at Ramsey's, and he was absolutely instrumental and incredible in helping me become the leader I am today. He's such a good leader, and he had a good leader to look up to, and so it kind of just trickled down. But he taught me a lot just about listening to people, about kind of shaving the raw edges off my personality, and how to actually handle conflict well, ask the right questions. So many things I do today are because of what he taught me, and it wasn't just words, but it was also watching him lead. And so I would say I'm a better leader and business owner today because of the boss I had for all those
What
years.
was his name?
His name's Heath.
Heath.
So Heath
Awesome.
Hartzog. Yep, incredible guy.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. And so as you're navigating right now all of this stuff, Middle Tennessee, real estate, everything, obviously the area is exploding with, people like me coming
Yeah.
from
Oh
from out of
yes,
state.
definitely.
What from your experience, what do you think is what makes Middle Tennessee so unique and that's attracting so many people?
hmm Well, I definitely think one of the things people love is the climate. You get all four seasons here. So I've heard that mentioned quite a bit. Let's be real. No state income tax is a big draw for people. Financially, you can get a lot more for your money here than you can in a lot of these other more expensive places, especially like California, New York, Chicago. We've had a lot of people move from those places. And during the huge influx in like 2021, gosh, people were putting down, 200 grand over asking price. But for them, like it was still a huge deal because of what they were coming from. So affordability is a big factor. But then also, I just think it's the people here. People are so friendly. They're so including. They just want to build community. I've just heard people wanting to come here and just plug into something. And so many people are finding that. And we're just finding they've found relationships that are what they've been looking for their entire lives. And so there's just some beautiful communities here. So, I'd say there's definitely the financial aspect of it. Definitely some of it's the weather, but then also the community is a big pull.
And how are you feeling about overall, like the growth? Is it, do you find it exciting? Is it, overwhelming? Like, what are the pros and cons from, because you've been here how
Oh,
long?
yeah. Gosh, since 1990.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, 25 years.
what, maybe kind of give me your perspective from as a local of like, what are some of the
Yeah.
pros? What are some of the cons? Beyond,
Well,
what I've heard, traffic. But obviously coming
uh-huh,
from Miami to me,
uh-huh.
that's it's still not considered traffic, but I
I know
can
I warned you about Main Street and Spring Hill, and you and Nathan were like, "Really? Is this the traffic you warned us about?" So it's all about perspective, I guess. Yeah, gosh, for me, I love it. I think the growth is exciting. I love seeing all the new things. It is kind of sentimental to think back to the quote unquote old days and be like, "Oh, I remember when this mall was first built, and this store used to be here, and when this area used to be a mall." And I mean, those things are fun, but I love change. I love seeing how things have grown over time. I think some of the challenges are the traffic. I think some of it is sort of we're losing a lot of just the land. Everything's becoming a neighborhood. And so it's kind of you're having to go further and further out to get more of the country feel, basically. You used to have that right here in like Thompson Station, Spring Hill. Not so much anymore, especially Spring Hill. It exists. Again, you just have to go further out. So I think that's a con. You're not getting that feel as much. It's not feeling as much like a small town anymore. It's feeling like a big town. Nashville's definitely on the map. Tons of people come here for bachelorette parties, and it's a destination now. But that comes with perks too. I mean, we're getting a whole new airport. Like you're getting brand new hotels that are fantastic. So I guess it's all about your perspective. So prices are definitely increasing. Thinking about what you could buy a home for even like 2018 versus now, it's insane how much the prices have increased. So that would be a con, especially for people that have lived here and have been saving up and it just continues to feel out of reach.
or
Um,
for their kids. That was something that,
yeah,
an argument that I heard the other day that I was like, oh, I actually hadn't thought about that. Like somebody
yeah,
who's, been here their entire life and now they're seeing their kids get priced out of somewhere,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
So
was one argument that I had never considered. Like, as I had always looked at it from like the first point of like, okay,
yes.
you're local and you want to move, got it, but
Yep.
from the next generation, that definitely.
Yeah, I know that's definitely tough. So, and I'm seeing more and more parents that are kind of in the ability to step in and help their kids a little bit with their first purchase, which I think that's amazing. That's a huge goal. I'd love to be able to do that for our kids. But yeah, it's kind of necessary now,
Yeah.
So I'd say that's a con too. I mean, overall, I think it's a pro. I think there's a lot of good things about it. I love all the people it's bringing here. I mean, I think that's my favorite part. It's sort of this big melting pot. Almost no one is quote unquote from here.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful place to live. I can't imagine living anywhere else. So I don't blame people for wanting to
Do
come this
you
way.
do you think with all of these people that are coming here, do you think we are handling it fine in terms of keeping what's special about Middle Tennessee like true, or do you think we're running the risk of maybe losing some of that?
I've heard a lot of people say that they don't like certain things others are bringing in with them. I mean, there's probably some truth to that, but I haven't felt that as much. To me, like for example, the community we're in feels so much like the community I grew up in. And
Mm,
that was back in the 90s. And so like to me it's all about the people, and I think you're getting all kinds of people here, but I think we're keeping intact what Middle Tennessee is for the most part. I mean, again, it probably depends on the circles you run in, but
right.
I feel nothing but positive, for the people that are coming and for keeping, even though it's getting to be a bigger town, it can still have that small town feel. And I definitely feel that like that's not going away.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you because, and I think I was mentioning this to somebody else that I
Yeah.
was talking with. Obviously, I've been meeting a lot of people and a lot of people from like California and other places. Um, and one of the things that I've noticed is the common kind of like thread with all of the people, especially from like California, funny enough, it was almost as if they all hit like a breaking point where they
Hmm.
said, okay, enough, and they wanted to jump ship. Not that they're coming here trying to make, Tennessee, California, but
Right.
they're really legitimately trying to like, okay, there was just a little too much. I wasn't 100% at home. Maybe there was something
Yeah.
specific tying them down there, or they loved the weather or whatever. But it was
Right.
just one extra little thing that they were like, okay, that's it. I hate to leave, but I have to. And so they're looking they were kind of the oddball over there, and they're coming
Right.
here and they're finding themselves feeling at home, which is certainly
Right.
for even coming from Florida, which is in many ways very similar
It
to
is.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
I was in Miami, and that
Right.
is it. That I don't even consider Miami United States. That's its
Mm.
own
Mhm.
culture, unique like
Right.
nothing else. And for us, it feels like wow, like we feel like I feel like home
More home.
in a way that I probably didn't over there,
Hmm. You had to find your
Um,
people. Almost feels like you
yeah,
found your people here.
exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
Um, so we've kind of talked a little bit about your background, your
Yeah.
journey into real estate, all of that stuff. What's something that you looking back, um, a decision, a moment, or something like that that maybe I kind of call it as like your favorite failure or something like that, or something
Mm.
like that. Something, success is never linear, right?
Right. True.
An up and down or a moment or something that really shaped who you are today, or something that happened that you go, man, in that moment, that was tough. That was a tough lesson to learn, or a failure, a business failure, or
Yeah.
something like that. But that looking back, you go, thank God that happened, because if
Hmm.
not, I wouldn't have X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. Gosh, for me, it was actually a principal thing and talking about kind of sawing off the rough edges of my personality. So I'm a very detailed person. I love to do things right. And so one of the things I struggled with is definitely as a young person was um, being technically right, but relationally wrong. So caring about the little details that didn't matter and kind of pushing forward on something that honestly had nothing to do with the situation. And really, as kind of a young, sort of immature business person, I would do that with my fellow salespeople. I would constantly like correct them and little things again, like that didn't matter. Like, oh, hey, it was, they're from this city, not this city, which had nothing to do with the point of the story, or just really pushing my opinion forward, even if it wasn't asked for. And so it's funny because my dad would work with me on that growing up, never quite stuck, but it was my boss, Heath, my leader. He actually took me aside one time and he's the one that gave me that phrase, like, Rebecca, he's like, you can be technically right, but relationally wrong. And that stuck with me. And I have constantly remembered that moving forward. And that's helped me not only relationally and my family, but also in my business. Really remembering, hey, like, what's the right thing to do in this situation? Like, are we off by a little bit? But for the relationship's sake, it's not worth bringing up these little details. And it sounds funny to say something little like that, but it really was something that, could turn people off to my personality, was just being a know-it-all and always, trying to share my opinion on everything and just having to mature and recognize there's a time for that. There's a time to let those things go and to just build the relationship. I use that I have a son that struggles with the same thing. And so I help him with that.
And now you're
So
seeing yourself in the mirror, right?
exactly. So, but it's great because I'm like, I understand why this feels important to you, why you feel you have to share this. But let me tell you, that is not going to serve you well in the real world. And so that is a principle that I've carried with me that definitely shaped who I am in business and personal.
You mentioned that your dad used to deal with it with
Yep.
you, but it wasn't until Heath came around that it
Yeah.
finally kind of clicked. Why do you think that was the case? Because this is,
Yeah.
and you just mentioned, right? Like you're dealing that with your son,
Yep.
and so you're telling
Totally.
him maybe he needs to have his own version of Mr. Heath to
Yep.
show up at some
Yes.
point in his life. It's gonna be like,
I
oh man,
think
my mom used
so.
to tell me this, but it wasn't. Why do you think that happens? The idea that the people, your parents are telling you the same thing, but a stranger
Yep.
says, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, I think so. I think there's a level of comfortability with your family. And, yes, I've always respected my parents, but I think there's just a different level of respect with, for example, like a leader at work. Like I would hear my dad, but I don't think I really heard how big of a deal it was. And it's like, oh, it's just my family. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. This isn't going to affect me that badly. But then I think when the same issue gets brought up in the workplace or wherever it does for somebody, you're like, oh my gosh, like I was warned about this. Like this is actually affecting my
Mm.
performance. This is affecting my relationship with these people here. Okay, this is serious. So it just almost takes that second opinion from an outside person, I think, to bring the seriousness to the situation and be like, oh no, this isn't just a quirk that my family doesn't like. No, this is like a real thing I need to work on if I want to become the best version of myself.
Right. Anything else that Heath, uh, or any other principles, any other lessons that you can look back and remember Heath teaching you?
Yeah. I think one of the things like with sales, I learned silence is gets you a lot. You don't always have to fill the space. And I remember having a conversation with one of my agents I worked with at the time, and there was something we were disagreeing on as far as something that needed to be paid on. And I just remember, having the conversation and then just sitting there in silence. I think it was like 30 seconds and it was so uncomfortable. But he came through. He's like, if you ever need a job and you need to become a realtor, I will hire you in 2 seconds. All right, I'm sending the check. And I was like, oh, okay, the silence paid off. So I think in sales, that's one thing we've all had to learn is it's like you don't have to fill the space. Sometimes you just need to be silent, let the other person process, and that will get you to where you need to be.
100%. Yeah, it's silence in sales negotiations of any
Yep.
type.
Yep.
Because I feel like there's that one layer of extra information that sometimes you get just by just
Mm-hmm.
sitting in silence. And it is awkward, right? It is
Mm-hmm.
very awkward. And so
Definitely.
people naturally want to fill that with additional information.
Yeah. And a huge part of my job is negotiating. And so I use those principles every day, negotiating with other agents, pushing for what my clients want, doing it in a way that helps me get them the best deals.
Yeah. If you could go back right now, 10 years, and give yourself a piece of advice, right? Like Rebecca
Yeah.
has learned a lot of things in the past 10 years. Um, what do you think you're telling yourself 10 years ago?
Yeah. 10 years ago, I would tell myself to listen to my gut. So I went through, gosh, a lot of hard stuff in my first marriage. And a lot of that was not listening to my gut. Not trusting what my body was telling me. And if I could go back, I would definitely teach myself that. And I would just say, no, listen, like your body keeps the score. You know the right next move. You can trust yourself. And I think when you doubt yourself, it can create a whole world of trouble. And I teach that to my kids now. We have different situations that come up, and I'll be like, hey, what does your body tell you about that situation? Even if they have someone tell me, I think this person is not telling me the truth. Okay, well, tell me why you feel that way. Do you feel that in your body somewhere? So much I've learned through lots of counseling and lots of book reading, all those kind of things. But gosh, I'm like, okay, it's not for naught if I can use these principles and share these with my kids, or I've met with other women who are going through similar situations. And gosh, that would definitely be something, I would love to tell myself 10 years ago.
Have you seen those things that happened in the past be used for edifying or helping other people currently?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my passions is kind of walking with families who are struggling with someone that has addictions, because that's a whole family disease. And, I've learned so much about that. And it's definitely a passion of mine. I've had a couple women reach out, like, who know a little bit of my story and are just like, hey, I kind of know what you went through. I'm going through something similar. Can I talk with you? Can I meet with you? And to me, that's a huge benefit where, Satan meant something for evil, God can turn it for good. And, I had a few people who were there for me in a time like that. And so if I can just turn that around, be there for those people, that is my goal and my kind of a joy, I guess, to be able to walk with people who are going through tough times and share what I've learned and just be a voice of encouragement for them. For families that are kind of have someone there, there's a lot of shame and it's hard to even be honest about that. So I think just kind of getting that out in the story, be like, hey, you don't need to have any shame. It's okay, for you to talk to somebody about this and to get the help that you need to grow as a person. And yeah, it changed my life having a few people that walked me through with that. And so yeah, doing the same for others is definitely something that I've seen the Lord do with that.
Do you mind if you don't mind,
Yeah,
can I ask a little bit of like
sure.
maybe give a little bit more insight of what is it that you
Yes.
went through and all of that?
Yeah, yeah,
Because I don't
absolutely.
think you've ever shared that with me or anything.
Yeah, probably not. So, and and I share, I think just because if my story can help anybody, I think that's the reason that, I feel like sharing it is a positive thing. So, in my first marriage, very early on, my first husband struggled with alcohol addiction. And I'd never really been exposed to that. And so, honestly, for me, it even took a while for me to figure out that it was an alcohol addiction. I just thought, oh, okay, he likes to drink a little too much. And I didn't know what the signs were for that. And so,
Got it.
there were a lot of years of going through episodes of him drinking too much and me dealing with that and trying to figure out how to handle it. And honestly, for me, the first thing that I did was fall very much into the codependent role, and became very controlling. And, I've since learned you don't become controlling because you want to control, it's because you want to feel safe. And if you can't feel emotionally safe or know that what your environment's going to look like, it does turn into control. Like, hey, you can only drink this much, where are you going to be at? And all these things, there's just no trust there, when you've had someone violate that so many times. And, and I've listened to another podcast a lot, and he has a very broad view of fidelity and marriage. And he's like, hey, it's not just necessarily sleeping with somebody else. You can cheat on your spouse, with alcohol, or, with other kinds of addictions, or with always being on the golf course, or, all of these things, And so I think for me, it took a lot to understand. Like, I thought like, oh, I need to stay in this marriage no matter what. I promise I'm going to do this no matter what kind of harm it brings to me. I've got to
Mm.
stay in this marriage. And that was just a false narrative, that I had created, based on maybe books I read or things like that. And I guess it takes two, to want a healthy marriage. And for me, I knew I had to do everything I could, because I had to be able to look my kids in the eyes one day and be like, hey, I did everything I could to stay in this marriage, and make this work. And, at the end of the day, he didn't choose us, he chose alcohol. And I think since then, maybe he's working on that and, so sober in those ways. But it was one of those things where honestly, this community that we're in now helped me tremendously to walk through that. And what I had to learn too was working on my own health. And once I've learned, oh, I'm contributing to the problem because I have these codependent
Right.
habits, and I have all of these things that are making me worry and, make these decisions that I wouldn't normally make as far as staying up all night because I was so worried about what was going to happen. And it was just
Mm.
affecting my health and affecting my kids because then I couldn't be the best mom. So, I think once I saw things affecting my kids more and I realized how I could help myself and walk in my health, and then also letting people into our quote unquote secret. It's like I didn't tell anybody for years, probably, gosh, probably 11 years really that this was anything
Wow.
on. So letting people into that and then being able to kind of recognize like, yeah, no, this isn't okay. Like what my gut is telling me, what my body is telling me is right. This is not
Yeah.
okay. It's not okay to live this way. It's not okay to have a house like this. I don't want to raise my children in this, and that's okay. All of those things were something that I had to learn. And it wouldn't have happened without a good community walking around me and then without
Yeah.
me pursuing health in my own areas.
Yeah, and it's crazy. The kind of struck me was the what you mentioned about how these feelings of like insecurity or something like that, kind of like how they showed up, right? Like how you
Yeah.
felt the
Yes.
need to be then extra controlling in this area
Yes.
or that or something. And it reminded me of many years back. I don't know if it was a book or something that I heard that really stuck with me, which was that in a marriage, women tend to I think the word that they used was gap fillers.
Hmm.
That women are incredibly by nature adept at filling gaps that are within the household, right? Like
Right.
so if
That's good.
let's say the husband is just like very bad at, keeping track of the calendar or some
Hmm.
whatever, then the
Yeah.
mom, the woman just naturally just morphs into that, and that you guys have this like incredible ability to just kind of develop a whole new set of
Hmm.
skills based on whatever is missing in the house,
Right.
either naturally or just by sheer just like laziness of the on the guy's part, right? Like so like as a husband, I can take a very, laid back approach and be like,
Yeah.
well, the wife will figure it out or this or that, and like most of the time the woman will be like, yes, fine, I'll. And then guys wake up one day and they go like, but my wife is doing all these things that I don't like. It's like, well, you kind of opened up the spot, you left it,
Mm.
somebody, it's a vacuum,
So
it's
good.
gonna
Yeah.
get filled in
True.
somehow,
Right.
and it's 9 times out of 10 going to be by her. So
Right. Makes
if you
sense.
don't like those places, then maybe you need to step in and
Yeah.
you need to
Look in the
take
mirror.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
So that's incredible. The fact that you recognize that those feelings of insecurity and everything was what was leading you
Hmm.
to do that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, if you if we go back forward 10 years, right?
Hmm.
Rebecca, 10 years is coming back to today and giving you a piece of advice. What do you think Rebecca from 10 years is telling you today?
I would probably say give myself grace.
Okay.
Figuring out this blended family thing is so new and a large family and all of this. And I know we're going to figure it out. And I know our kids are going to thrive. We're going to get this together. But I think give myself grace, because it's like I struggle with, I want everything to be right and to be perfect all the time and to create the best environment. It's like I want the best of everything. And just realizing grace, let's give ourselves time, don't rush it. We're going to get there. It's just one step at a time, the next right thing. And, we're going to create a beautiful blended family. And we hope to create something that down the road we can help other families with, So, yeah, I think give myself grace in all these areas and not push myself too far too fast.
Yeah. And I think kind of how you were mentioning earlier that even it's okay, even if you're not technically
Hmm.
correct,
Hmm.
right? In some
Yeah.
things, as long as you're relationally correct,
Yes.
that's going to stick with me for a while now.
Good.
Not technically correct, because I
Yep.
feel like I'm probably very guilty of that. Like I
Yeah.
feel like if I ask my wife that, she'll probably be like, "Oh yeah, you like to be
Uh-huh.
technically correct a lot."
Yep. That phrase sticks with me for sure.
That's awesome. Any quotes, verses, anything that you think of often as you are going throughout your day that kind of keep your compass heading north?
Yeah. Honestly, for me, I don't know if it's a quote or anything, but really just wanting to be the best version of myself and, not being something or someone I'm not, but the best version of me and just continuing to refine that and figure out, okay, like who is in there and what kind of steps do I need to take today to bring that woman out? And, how can I be, the best realtor, the best wife, the best mom, like all of these things. So, always just trying to figure out, I think, what is that next right step for me? And how can I love on people today? That's a big thing that stays forefront of my mind is how can I make that person feel special, feel loved on, feel seen? And just really, I've kind of come to a point where I realize a lot of times we think good things about people, we don't share it. So I've kind of wanted to be like, okay, if I see somebody and I love that woman's sweater, I'm going to tell her and be like, hey, your sweater is wonderful. I love it, rather than just keeping that compliment in my head. And the same thing, like, hey, when you spoke, the other day, you did fantastic. Great job. Again, rather than just keeping those things in my head. So, being proactive, looking for ways to appreciate people, looking for ways to encourage people, looking for ways to love people, and then, just using that to help me become the best version of myself.
I love it. There's this in a similar fashion. I heard in this podcast the other day something that I've been trying that I've been getting a lot of satisfaction from, and it's been great. Was applying the same thing, but with people that you maybe haven't been in touch with in a while. That the
Yeah.
moment that something happens, right, you see
Yes,
something that it reminds you of that person. And this happens to all of us, right? Like you go through life
you do.
and every day a ton of different things remind you of a ton of different people, right? um, Taking the time to just randomly out of the blue, if I see, a book that reminded me of someone, just
Yes.
like text, literally just out of the blue, text that person like, hey, I
Yes.
saw this book today and reminded me of you. Hope
That.
all is well. Like
Yes.
just those
Exactly that.
random little things. And I've been trying it for the past few months. Amazing. Like I've
Yes.
gotten to like reconnect with a bunch of people that I had lost touch with for years,
Yeah.
but for some
Yeah.
reason they just naturally, and the key is that, right? Like doing
Right.
genuinely, like they genuinely popped into my head. And instead of letting that thought pass and go,
Yeah.
actually taking action and like sending a quick text or
Yes.
picking up the phone and calling them. Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Taking action. That 5 second rule by Mel Robbins. I don't know if you've ever read that book, but she talks about
no.
counting when you have the nudge to do something, just do it, and count down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it.
Okay.
And so it's the same thing like with that, going up meeting somebody or sending that text or whatever the case is, if you're like, oh, should I not count down from 5 and make yourself just do it.
And the craziest thing, just I mean, literally this past week, it happened to me. I this couple that I photographed their wedding, gosh, I want to say it was maybe like 16 years ago. For some odd reason, the guy just kind of popped into my head. Sent him a text, hey, hope all is well. Saw this thing, reminded me of you.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, oh my God, you're not gonna believe it. Just this past week, we were talking about you. And I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
wow. So we kind of like reconnected that way and everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Um, okay, so now I'm going to get to a special section of the show called the 615 Rapid Fire.
All
Okay, so
right.
I'm going to throw
Got it.
out some random questions at you. The first thing that comes to mind, anything, let me know.
Okay.
So you get a billboard on I-65 for 1 full year, and it says anything you want on that billboard. What is the billboard? What does it say?
Offering ridiculous customer service.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Describe your idea of the perfect day in Middle Tennessee.
Fall, absolutely. Probably 68 degrees, gorgeous leaves on the trees, getting a pumpkin spice latte, walking around downtown Franklin, doing some shopping, doing some lunch, maybe heading to a park, reading a book out on a blanket in a park. And then probably maybe some chili that night, and then maybe watching an NFL football game. Sounds perfect to me.
Love it. What team are you rooting for?
Oh, definitely Green Bay Packers.
Favorite Middle Tennessee food spot and dish?
Oh my goodness. Oh, there's so many to choose from. Probably Brunch Collective, which is in
Okay.
Spring Hill. Oh my gosh, their food is fantastic. And then
Brunch Collective. Okay.
Brunch Collective. Yeah, it's
I have not
amazing.
been there. I need
Yeah,
to.
everything is homemade, organic, no seed oils, fresh. Everything is fantastic. They don't even own a microwave. Brunch Collective is great, and then they have I think it's called Christie's Bowl, and so it's got it's eggs and spicy sausage and avocado and their bacon dipped in like maple syrup and oh my
Oof.
gosh, it's
Love it.
incredible. Hash browns, the whole thing. So it's a favorite for sure.
Love it. Other Middle Tennessee people, businesses, or stories that you want to show a little bit of love to that you think I should have on the show?
Yeah. Oh man. That's great. It'd be fun. You definitely have Dustin Smith on the show if he'll come. So
Working on it. Working on
yeah,
it.
talking about the songwriting, and he has so many great stories, honestly.
Yes.
Let's see here. Who else? There's so many great businesses. Jody Hill
Okay.
is doing a new parenting business and has wonderful parenting advice. She's fabulous. I love everything that she shares. So definitely love her and love what she's doing. And let's see here. Gosh, I feel like there's so many people that have small businesses here. This is such an entrepreneurial town, which I
Yeah.
absolutely love. So there's probably more people I could think of. Those people are top of mind, though.
Very good. Very good. So before we, sign off and you tell people how to connect with you, how to find anything, more about you, what's next for Rebecca? What are you working on? Anything
Yeah.
exciting?
Okay. So, a great project is Mariani Homes. So, my husband actually got his real estate license and he's been doing real estate for a little while too. So, we're joining a team together. So, that's a new
Nice.
project is getting that off the ground, kind of having our own family business. So, we're kind of just combining businesses and putting that together. So, we're working on our branding and all of that. So, we're super excited to do business together. So
Very
that's probably
cool.
that's our newest project. So, yeah, working on what that looks like, learning each other's strengths in business and where we can, where he's weak, I'm strong and vice versa, and how we can best complement each other. So we're really excited about this.
Well, if there's anything to know is that Mariani Holmes is going to have an incredible follow-up game. That I
That's
know for
true.
sure.
Yes, 100%. You know that.
Um, any parting thoughts? Anything that we didn't talk about? Anything that we didn't cover that you want to leave the listeners with? Anything?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing that's come up lately is how important community is. And it's like you were not meant to do life alone. And you were meant to do life with people and with good people. And so, I think if you don't have that community yet, don't give up, keep looking. If you have it, press in, don't take those relationships, for um
For
I
granted?
might have to edit this part out. I just totally lost my train of thought. For granted, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't take those relationships for granted, if you have them, because they're so important. So, in your personal life, in your work, in all the things, have community, press into it, and just remember you weren't meant to do life alone.
Love it. And last but not least, what is the best way for people to connect with you, find out more about Mariani Homes, all of that stuff?
Yeah. Yep. So Instagram is Rebecca, Rebecca, RC Mariani. And same on Facebook. And then, yeah, our website will be Mariani Homes. So, yep, we'd love to connect at any of those places.
Awesome. Love it. Rebecca, thank you so much for this, for sharing part of your story. And as I said in the beginning, thank you for making personally, selfishly, my move to Middle Tennessee such an enjoyable experience.
Oh, gosh, seriously, my pleasure, both to be on the podcast and to help get you guys here. I love having your family here. So thanks for having me today.
Hey there. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone you think would find it interesting. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.